Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome to episode number 1 in a new series where I will be featuring and comparing various brands of short scale bass strings. In this episode, we're going to be putting head to head a set of nickel roundwounds from Stringjoy up to the tried and true Pink Pack D'Addario XLs. Let's go. This episode comes from a viewer request where the viewer was wondering what a premium brand of Stringjoy strings would sound like in my freshly built Warmoth double reverse P bass. If you want more details about this bass, how it was built, and the specs and why I chose what I did, I will leave some links in the description box below. As well, about a year and a half ago or so, I put out a video on how to find strings for your short scale bass. I will also leave a link for that in the description box below. Let's go ahead with this head-to-head comparison. So both of these sets are nickel roundwound strings. Both of them are gauges 100 to 45. The difference here, however, is the D'Addario XLs are about 2.5 weeks old on this bass, whereas the Stringjoys are only about 1 week old. So keep that in mind when you're listening to the differences. In this head-to-head comparison, I'm going to be featuring different pickup configurations and different tone pot settings with these strings. So in the first pass, we're going to have both pickups wide open and the tone knob wide open. In the second pass, I'm going to roll the tone knob down to 50% with both pickups. In the third, just the front P pickup with tone knob wide open. In the fourth, P pickup in the neck, tone at 50%. And in the final pass, only the bridge pickup with the tone knob at 50%. All right, let's give it a listen. Please let me know what you thought of the tones by leaving a comment below. Firstly, to ensure that strings will fit your short scale bass, you have to ensure that the string wound length is appropriately matched to your instrument. Very briefly, the string wound length is measured from the ball end to where the first taper or where the silk begins. And ideally, you want that taper or where the silk begins to be past the nut, but before the tuner. The reason for this being, if you wrap the full gauge of the string around the tuning peg, this is especially relevant for the low E and A strings, there is a risk of string breakage. So you will notice beyond that taper, the gauge of the string is smaller, and that's to facilitate being able to wrap around the tuning peg with more ease and less risk of string breakage. The problem here is that many string companies do not actually publish the actual string wound length of their products. So if you have short scale basses with kind of a quirky scale length or a different distance between the nut and the tuner, or if you have, say, a traditional Mustang bass that's stringed through the body, then those distances need to be carefully matched to the string. But if you don't know what those numbers are, then you're kind of flying blindly. So the first good thing about these Stringjoys is that on their website, they explicitly tell you what the string wound length is. And for a short scale bass, these Stringjoys measure at 32.75 inches. Let's now discuss the sonic differences between the Stringjoys and the D'Addario XL Pink Pack. To my ear, I feel the Stringjoys in general had slightly less bass and like really low end, but compared to the D'Addario XLs, the Stringjoys have a much more apparent mid-range presence. And you can hear it especially in those upper mids, that the D'Addario XLs actually sound relatively scooped in comparison to the Stringjoys. So when running both pickups with the tone knob wide open, you could hear the difference in those mid-range frequencies, with the Stringjoys being a little more present and perhaps a little more balanced sounding. I felt the differences were even more apparent when you were running the neck P pickup alone. There, those mid-range frequencies were much more present and much more apparent on the Stringjoys compared to the D'Addarios. The low end difference, I think you can hear a little bit more when only running the back pickup. And in that comparison, the D'Addario XL sounded a little bit bassier and a little bit warmer. Now, in terms of string feel, Stringjoy is very good about publishing their tension charts on their website, so I would encourage you to go check those out. Now, both of these were 100 to 45 sets, but what I will say is that the 100 on the Stringjoy felt stiffer and less flexible compared to the same 100 on the D'Addario XLs. Now, interestingly, that feel was not, at least to my fingers, I did not feel that to be consistent across all four strings. In fact, I felt the 45, so the G string on the Stringjoy, that actually feel lighter than the G string on the D'Addario. I can't really explain that. I don't know why, but I felt the G string was much easier to bend and easier to finger, whereas the E string on the Stringjoys felt stiffer. Now, in terms of how the texture felt under my fingers, the D'Addario XLs felt smoother to the touch, and I felt the Stringjoys, they're not coarse or rough by any means, but in comparison to the D'Addarios, they did feel a little rougher in texture under my fingers. And that brings us to the issue of cost. Now, in Canada, you can find the D'Addario XLs in just about any music store. The short scales, less so, but the D'Addarios are everywhere. Whereas it's pretty rare to find Stringjoys in many guitar stores. So I ended up getting these Stringjoys from a Canadian music store, and I had these expressed to me through the mail. These were selling for $40 Canadian, or on their website it's about $30 US. But it also cost over $10 to ship it to me. So at the end of the day, even before taxes, this set of Stringjoys was going to cost me $50. In comparison, the D'Addario XL short scales you can get from anywhere from $28 to about $34, depending on where you buy them from. So the D'Addarios are quite a bit less expensive in comparison to the Stringjoys. Now, with the ongoing trade wars and tariffs on metals and things like that, I'm not quite sure how that is actually going to affect the guitar, bass, and string industries. Hopefully the prices don't skyrocket on us. But cost does become an issue, especially if you change your strings frequently, because that extra cost for the Stringjoys will add up over the year. Okay, so who are the Stringjoys for? I think these Stringjoy nickel round wound strings are for the player who doesn't need, really subby lows, but needs a string that has a little more of a click and a little more of a mid-range presence, and perhaps needs that kind of sound to cut through a dense mix with a little bit more poke. So I think the Stringjoys do excel in having that extra mid-range clarity and that extra mid-range pokiness. However, if you have sensitive fingertips or prefer a slightly softer, more flexible feeling string, then the Stringjoys do feel a little coarser in comparison to the D'Addario XLs. So check them out if you have the means. The biggest drawback to the Stringjoys are going to be the cost. And especially up in Canada where there aren't very many dealers that are distributing Stringjoys, they're also going to be harder to find, and that also adds to the shipping costs. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you got something out of it. Until next time, peace.